of easing the way. And Pastor Kate was going to do a presentation today, but then with doing the services, Heather, I called her, and she offered to fill in. She's a hospice nurse, and she's with Unity Point, so she'll do the presentation today. Heather, and I don't say her last name right. Bat? Thank you.
You're welcome. Good morning.
Good morning.
Did everybody get a handout? Everybody get one? Got one? Feel free to interrupt me anytime if you have any questions or anything. I've been doing this for about 4 years total. I'm in the office now, pretty recent, but I've been in the field for just under 4 years. So if you have any questions or anything, please feel free to ask. I'll kind of start out like I do when I'm talking to families for the first time. Hospice has a lot of misconceptions in the community because it's evolved so much over the years. In order to qualify for hospice, a doctor does say you have to have a prognosis of 6 months or less. But with that being said, we all know people that have gone to the doctor and they say you have 6 months to live, and 6 years later, they're still walking around. So I always like to say this is a jumping off point for hospice. It is a lifetime benefit, so there is no cap through Medicare. So as long as you keep qualifying for hospice services, you can keep staying on. We've had people on service for a year, 2 years before, so there's no time limit. Another common misconception is that the only diagnosis you have to have in order to qualify for hospice is cancer. And that's not true. That's not even our most prevalent diagnosis that we sign people up for anymore. So I know on the back of the handout that I gave you, there's a list of the most common diagnoses that we can put you into hospice under, but that is certainly not an exhaustive list. Again, with the 6-month diagnosis or prognosis, and then of course, it's more for people that are done with treatment. They don't want any more aggressive treatment, no more chemotherapy, no more radiation, no more IV fluids, don't want to go to the doctor anymore. We just want to be comfortable at home. It does not mean that we come in and take you off all of your medications and we put you on morphine right away. You still stay your course. You can still take all of your medications you're taking at the time. If you don't need morphine, we don't have to get that for you right away. That's not something that we do right off the bat. Our job is to come in and make you comfortable as you are now. We always say it's not our journey, it's yours. So our job is to come in and help facilitate you in your journey, however you deem it to be comfortable for you. We will offer suggestions. You don't have to take them. We're the eyes and ears for the doctor out in the field. It doesn't mean that if you get pneumonia or you get a urinary tract infection that we won't treat that. You still can have antibiotics. That is a comfort medication. Doesn't mean we're giving up on you. We will continue to treat what we can, and we'll continue to manage your symptoms. Everybody is different. Everybody's journey is different. Even if you both have the same diagnosis, nobody will ever present the same. So everybody's preference of how they want their journey to go is completely up to them. Everybody wants to know who pays for hospice. If you're Medicare eligible, it is paid 100% by Medicare Part A. There is no out-of-pocket expense to you at all. That includes the core services that we offer, which are nursing. We have CNAs that can come in and help get you bathed. They can do light housework. They can do anything that you need in the home. We also have a social worker and we have a chaplain on service. Our chaplain is extra. She does not take the place of any clergy that you may already have in place, but we do like to offer a lot of emotional and spiritual support through hospice. So I always encourage everybody to take advantage of the services that we do offer, but of course it's your choice as to what services you do want. Medicare will also pay for medical equipment and your medications. So a lot of financial help as well. Insurance will also cover hospice if you do not have Medicare, but everybody's policy is different, so I can't give you a standard answer as to what insurance would cover. Each policy is just a little bit different. We would just have to call your provider to find out what they would offer for you. And then for people that don't have either of those options, there is a private pay option, but that's used pretty rare. Back to the core services that we offer. The nursing, you choose how often you would like us to come to the home. Medicare says the minimum we have to see you is once every 15 days, but we can come up to every day if that's what your need is. We do not offer 24-hour care, however. We can help you set that up. That would be an out-of-pocket expense to you. Medicare does not cover that either. What we usually start out with, like a typical nursing visit, would be 2 times a week. We would come in, manage your medications, we can fill your pill box for you, make sure that your medications are still beneficial for you, are still controlling the symptoms that they need to control. If we need to change something, we can call the doctor and get that changed. There's no need for you to go to the doctor. We can just do all that ourselves through the home. There's no reason for you to go out.
Question.
Yes.
When you're on hospice, however, you do not call 911. You do not call an emergency.
Correct.
If you're on hospice, then you're on hospice. You don't call the emergency.
Correct. You would call us instead. We are on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So if for some reason there is an emergency in your home, or you have a symptom out of control that you need help with at 3 o'clock in the morning, that's what we're there for.
If somebody has, as I recall, my dad was on hospice. They said that if there were like an infection, that just an antibiotic would make him better, that would be happening, but you're not going to rush. He said he was done being rushed to the hospital.
Sure. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. It can get kind of cumbersome to keep going to the hospital when you don't
Yeah.
feel well already.
He said the time had come, and so he wanted to die in his own home, and the hospice enabled him to do that. I'm grateful for that.
Is the care only in your home, or is it ever at the hospital as well?
Medicare's made it pretty difficult to qualify for hospice in the hospital. We do that, but it's a pretty rare instance anymore. Typically, people that we sign up in the hospital are pretty, what we call acute, meaning you have a symptom that's out of control at the time that we can't control in the home. So in the hospital, they might need to control that with an IV or something of that nature, but once that symptom gets under control, then we would have to look at getting you back home. So it just kind of varies. You don't lose all of your options just because you're on hospice. Like I said, if you have something that's out of control that I can't get control of in the home, we would take you to the hospital to get that controlled.
Some communities have a hospice place where you go. Do we have that in the Quad Cities?
We do. There is only one left in the Quad Cities, Clarissa Cook, and that is through Genesis Hospice. But yes, that's over in Bettendorf. There is a fee associated with that, though, that Medicare does not cover, and that's $250 a day that they charge. And I know that they used to have like a sliding scale fee, like a financial form you could fill out. I'm not sure that they still do that, but they used to.
Where is that?
In Bettendorf?
Yeah, okay.
Clarissa
Cook.
Clarissa Cook, yeah. Yes.
If you're on about 8 or 9 pills every morning and every night, can you just stop all your pills completely?
Absolutely. Yep. If that's what you want to do, then that's what we can do for you. If you want us to evaluate your medications and see which ones you might not need anymore, might not be beneficial for you, we can do that as well and make recommendations. Or if you want to continue your entire course as you're going on now, you can do that as well. So everything is your choice.
So who makes that choice? The nurse or your primary care physician?
As far as like stopping medications,
Uh-huh.
that would be between, really it's your choice, and then us as the nurse, we would relay that to the doctor. I've never had a doctor tell me, no, they can't stop that medication before. So, they're pretty lenient. Once you're on hospice, your doctor just wants you to be comfortable too.
Is there ever come a time when you would suggest, or that, I know this hospice care and that that for the last period it would be better that you be moved there, or there's anything different what they would do for you than what you do for people in the home?
They do 24-hour care there, of course, because they're staffed to have a nurse there and a CNA there 24 hours a day. So if that's something that you do require, then yes, that would be very beneficial for you. But in the home, I like to say we empower and educate the family members to take care of their loved one in our absence, because we can't be there 24 hours a day. So, it just becomes a personal preference of what you can handle and what you can't handle as far as being a caregiver.
As a giver.
Yeah, and I always tell people too, I've never had to take care of a family member of my own, and just because I take care of everybody else day in and day out, I don't know that I could care for my family member. You never know what you can do until you're faced with it.
When my dad, he was 90, and my mother, he was 92, she was 94 at the time. Well, she couldn't, they were living in their own home, she couldn't bathe him and take care of him. So he did have a 24-hour-a-day certified nursing assistant there to help him with all of that, so she could he wanted to be in his home with her, but that got pricey after a while, but to have somebody there all the time, and what if he fell in the middle of the night and so forth. But they made it possible, and we had these shifts of people coming in, but my mother's never met a person she didn't like, so she adjusted to that just fine, having them come, and it lasted about 6 months. But he was able to be in his own home. Had been on this restricted diet, you have to eat all this mush because you might get pneumonia, and the doctor said, hey, eat whatever you want.
Yep.
In the end, it was a lot of dessert.
Yes.
I guess the only thing he didn't taste. He'd ignore this health, he's like, yeah, dessert's like, whatever, Dad. You need to gain some weight here.
Yep.
But,
Yes.
Moving from palliative care to hospice was difficult, and when my daughter was very ill and later passed away. But we insisted on palliative care because we were determined she was going to live. But there wasn't time. We didn't have palliative care very long. Is that difficult? Do you run into some problems sometimes with moving from palliative care and saying, no, you don't need that, you need hospice? Or does the doctor help make that decision?
We work very close with the palliative care department. And actually, if you're in the palliative care program and you do have a need on call, it's the hospice team that does respond to that. But typically, it's a pretty smooth transition. Sometimes it's difficult for the palliative care nurses to have that conversation with the family member to try to transition them over. But we try. So, it just kind of depends, and sometimes it's a very quick decline too, so you don't get the opportunity to have that conversation. But they're supposed to be, having those conversations with the community and letting them know that hospice is available, and you as a family member too can contact the hospice. You don't necessarily have to wait for the doctor. We've had family members call in before and say, I think my loved one might qualify for hospice. How do I go about doing that? And what we would do for you then is call the doctor ourselves and get the order, and then come out and do an evaluation. So we can help with that.
Is that different in different states? This is out on the West Coast, and it was the same staff. They were just first they were doing palliative care, and then they switched, and we all switched to hospice. But it was the same staff.
Yeah, I think it's different just how the programs are set up. Right now, Unity Point is the only organization that has a palliative care program. And it's a pretty small staff, so that's why the hospice team kind of helps respond for the on-call need for the palliative care patients. And then our hospice staff does help out with visits periodically too. So we're kind of commingled, so you might see some of us in the palliative care side too.
Palliative means,
Comfort care,
Okay.
but you still have the luxury of being able to go to the doctor, you can still get treatment. Palliative care would be another resource for you to call, like if you needed help in the middle of the night, or to help with symptom management, but you still have the freedom to be able to come and go to the doctor and still receive your treatment.
And you're planning to get better.
Yes.
I would imagine most people go from home to the hospital before they go into hospice. Who then is your primary doctor if you go into the hospital first? Who then becomes your primary doctor? The hospitalist at the hospital or your own private doctor?
If you're going to return home with hospice, then it would become your primary care physician, would remain your primary care physician. If for some reason we didn't think you were going to be able to leave the hospital and you were going to receive hospice in the hospital, then Dr. Flowers is our medical director, so he typically follows in the hospital. Yes.
There are restrictions, aren't there, if you're on hospice as to what you can do as far as leaving your home or not?
No.
No?
No, that's more with like home care, like with visiting nurses.
Okay.
But no, with hospice, you have the freedom pretty much to come and go as long as you can. Yep. And we encourage that. We're flexible, so it's our day to visit and you want to go to the park and have a picnic, you can go to the park and have a picnic, we'll visit you a different day, so. Yes?
Also, to be asked, does hospice help if somebody is needing home care for a loved one? Does hospice have a list or how do you even find somebody to be in your home that you can feel is qualified and safe to be with your loved one?
Yep, our social workers are great. They have a list of companies that you can call and interview. They can help set that up. We can definitely help you get that going in your home. Yep. We have volunteers as well. Volunteers can come help sit with your loved one if you have to go run an errand or you need to go get a massage or get your hair done or something for yourself. We do have volunteers that can come in and sit as well. They're not medical professionals, so they cannot do anything medical, but they can come in and visit and just be present with your loved one while you go and do what you need to do. They can come in once a week, once every other week, whatever you need. And they've been very beneficial and very helpful as well. We also have a couple of adjunct therapies. We have pet therapy, we have music therapy, and we also have massage therapy. So those are wonderful as well. You can partake in all of them, you can partake in none of them. So, the options are there. Just personal preferences, whatever you like. So we're there to help with whatever it is you need. I don't know if I said we cover medical equipment as well. So hospital beds, wheelchairs, oxygen, nebulizers, any other medical equipment you may need, we do cover under hospice, along with the medications and the visits. We also have what we call respite care. So if you are at home and it's a little overwhelming for your family, you have the option of going to respite care, and what that would entail is hospice would pay for 5 days of your loved one to go to a nursing facility to kind of give you a little bit of a break. You have the option then of having your loved one return home and resume care at home, or we can help you with the admission process into a nursing home at that point. Our social workers can help you with that. Our social workers can also help you fill out some Medicaid applications if that's what you need to, which can be kind of a daunting process. before, cancer is not our most common diagnosis, so some of the more common diagnoses that we do admit under is stroke, liver disease, heart disease, dementia, pulmonary disease, renal failure, and then we also have like ALS, Parkinson's. We also have a general decline, so some people might have some of these diagnoses, but they don't meet the criteria that Medicare has set forth. But a culmination of everything that they have going on is contributing to their decline, so we do have kind of just a general decline that you can be admitted under. Weight loss, trying to think. It's not just a cookie cutter program, so there's a lot of different things that we can admit you under. It's not just cancer or just respiratory. We take a look at the big picture and see what you've got going on. Yes?
How do they admit anybody under Alzheimer's? Because people don't usually die from Alzheimer's. They die from other complications along with the Alzheimer's.
And that's very true. Medicare has set forth very strict guidelines as far as the dementia diagnosis goes. You have to be very, very end-stage dementia in order to qualify for that. But you're right, typically people die from complications of other disease processes they have going on before they get to end-stage dementia. Yes?
Nowadays, you see all these different hospice programs. I mean, when we read obituary, you see this hospice compasses, or, all these. What are the differences between all these different hospice programs?
As far as core programs, there is no difference. We're all governed by Medicare, so all of the core programs are the exact same. There is no difference. I always encourage people, if you truly do not know which hospice you want to go to, pick 2 or 3 and interview them. It's just then becomes a personal preference of who you feel most comfortable with and who you connect with on that sort of level. You have for-profit hospices that you see doing a lot more advertising, and then you have not-for-profit hospices, and that's mainly the difference. In the Quad Cities, there are 7 hospices. So you have a wide variety to choose from. But people don't typically know that, and that's, it's a lot of word of mouth, referrals, or your doctor. There's 7 hospices here. That means there's 7 different doctors that are medical directors of different hospices. They are not supposed to direct you in one way or another. They're supposed to give you an option, but that doesn't always happen, so.
Well, what if your doctor is part of Genesis? Does that automatically put you into a Genesis hospice if you need
It
it?
should not, no. No. If you choose to go with Unity Point or one of the freestandings or Genesis, it should not matter to your doctor which one you go to. We've had patients that have had Genesis primary care physicians as well, so.
So I'm guessing it might offer different services then, like you said, you offer the pet therapy, et cetera, that some may not.
Correct.
It's going to vary than what
Correct.
supportive services.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. But everybody offers the nursing, the CNA, the social worker, the chaplain, that kind of stuff. All that is all the same because it's all governed by Medicare, so, yep.
Even if you're not Medicare age.
Yes, all the programs are the same then. Yeah. If it's insurance may come back and say, we'll only pay for nursing. That's happened before. But we would tell you that up front before we ever signed you up, so you would know what you were getting into. Yep. People have graduated from hospice before, so just because you end up signing up with services doesn't necessarily mean that that's it. We've had people before, we've come in and tweaked their medications and taken them off of some stuff, and they feel worlds better. And after 6 months, we reevaluate, and there's no need for hospice anymore. So, it just kind of depends what's going on. I mean, and that happens a lot more than what people think.
So what does Medicare say about that? What if you have to go again? You can go back in?
You can come back on services at a later date. There is no cap, it's a lifetime benefit, so. Yeah. You also have the option too, if you're on services and you decide you're having a crisis episode and you get scared and you decide you want to go for treatment, you have the option of signing off of hospice services, going to the hospital and getting treatment. reevaluating what you want to do, and if you decide when you come home you want to come back on hospice, you can do that as well. So just because you sign up with hospice doesn't mean you've lost all of your choice. So you might be in one frame of mind when you sign up, and when something scary happens, you might change your mind. Nobody can blame you for that, and there's no penalty for that. There's no repercussions for doing that. So
I would just like to say at hospice, it was a just wonderful situation with my daughter. We had a social worker and a nurse, the head nurse, and they came in and she got massage, she got, the people that came in were just wonderful. That they bathed her, they washed her hair very carefully, they helped us determine the amount of morphine that was necessary. A guitar player came in and played, and she was coming 3 days in a row. She didn't need to, and she did, and that was good for all of us. I think that another thing that was so important was that they prepared us. And they sat, the nurse and the social worker sat down with us and told us what to expect and how to do things. And I don't know what we would have done without that support. There were just 3 of us taking care of her. And if it hadn't been for hospice, I don't know what we would have done. And she would have had to have been in the hospital. And there was no help. Anyway, I just think hospice is a wonderful thing. And I think music therapy and some of the other things are so good for the family as well as for the patient.
I agree.
So I certainly take my hat off to these hospice programs.
Well, thank you. I'm glad you had a very positive experience.
And they kept in touch with me. They sent me mailings.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I didn't need to go to meetings back out on the West Coast, obviously. But they do keep track of you for at least a year afterwards.
Yep. We do have a bereavement program, so for 13 months after your loved ones pass, we do keep in contact with you. Our hospice, we do luminary service twice a year, so just a little remembrance candle lighting service that we do, and everybody is invited. And those are lovely, kind of let you reconnect with your hospice team and share some fun memories of your loved ones. And we do offer mailings, support groups. We're starting a new support group that we're getting up and running, so we do offer those kind of services as well.
What's this like for you? You are going, whereas physicians maybe, gotta save this life, what can we do, save the life, extend the life, and you're saying, you know what, this death is part of life. And what's it like for you as your daily work to be helping people through along that journey?
Some days are easier than others. I've gotten very close to family members, some that I still see, gotten very close to patients. It's difficult, it's very emotionally draining. But I always tell people I couldn't do it without my husband because he just lets me cry. And I've never had difficulty with physicians, I can say that. Most physicians want you to be just as comfortable as you can be. They respect your choice as hospice. But I always tell people, you as the family have the hard job. My job's not nearly as hard as what your job is as the caregivers. So my hat's off to family members that can take care of their loved ones through that process, because it is not easy. Very difficult, yes.
What if your loved one is not on Medicare, not old enough to be on Medicare?
Hopefully they have an insurance policy. There's a private pay option. There's sliding scale financial things that we can do. Each case is unique, so we would take a look at every case on a case-by-case basis, depending on.
So does private care have a hospice option as one of its things, or does it always include that as a?
VA benefits, VA pays for hospice as well. So if you're a veteran, they have a very good hospice benefit. So there's other options, and our social workers are pretty good about finding other options. I know there's certain insurances too that will only take a certain hospice. So each hospice in the Quad Cities is very grateful that, and very giving. So if for some reason they choose us, but we are not on their insurance plan, we will refer you on to who is on your insurance plan.
The new ACA health plan that's getting phased in, do you know if hospice is a requirement of that now? Or am I getting too far afield?
No, we've been kind of discussing that a little bit. The hospice benefit has not been cut. There's no change to the hospice benefit as of right now. It's
No,
still.
what I meant is it a requirement under the ACA that insurance companies include that in their coverage? Or do you know?
I don't know the answer to that question. I could probably ask Dr. Flowers that, but I don't know the answer to that 100%.
Yeah, okay.
I would hope that it would be a requirement, but,
Well, I understand.
you know,
There's a lot of insurance out there that probably should not be sold.
agreed. Agreed. I did kind of touch on the Clarissa Cook. So that's an option as well, but again, $250 copay per day. That is an out-of-pocket expense. Medicare does not cover that. That's over and above what Medicare covers. There's also the option of going to a nursing home if that's what you need. If you need a little bit more intensive care that your family members can't provide. Social workers can help facilitate that. Again, help you with paperwork if you need help with payment. Or if that's something you can't afford, then we can look at maybe a private duty option. There's a lot of people out there that do private duty. There's companies out there that provide private duty. So there's a lot of option out there still.
And I confess I came in 5 minutes late, but do you have a sense of the history of hospice? That is, I don't remember that being, has that been for hundreds of years that people have had services to help people along the way, or is that something fairly new? And how did it come about? Do you know that?
1974 was the first hospice. And then it's just kind of evolved from there. 1982 is when Medicare actually started with the Medicare benefit. But it's evolved even from then,
Was that a controversial thing in the 1974, this whole idea?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think it's pretty well received. I just think that hospice is kind of a bad word in the community still because people think it's very imminent. That once I sign up for hospice, then that's it. And we're trying to do some more educational stuff with not only the community but physicians as well, to try and get over that stigma of we're at the very end here. We prefer to get people signed up before it is their last days. Not only does it help you as a family, but it helps us because we can develop that sense of trust and a relationship with you, so that when it does come time to make those big decisions, you do trust us. And
So hospice within the home has really been established since the 70s?
yeah, but with a lot of
Because I mean,
tweaks.
just knowing some background to me and maybe the rest of you, hospice facilities were available, like with the old Lutheran hospital,
Yes.
with connection there, and that would have been, 80s into the early 90s. I think that they,
Yeah. And hospice has changed so much that before, you could keep people in the hospital and provide this hospice benefit to them. And now Medicare has changed things so much that now that we don't want to pay for both. So, it's more difficult now to qualify for hospice in the hospital, but it's much easier to qualify for hospice in the home now. So,
much better thought, but I guess I didn't realize
yeah.
that actually Home Hospice as such, or calling it that, was available that long.
Yes, I believe Unity Point started in 1986, 1987, I believe. So,
Would you explain to us what Unity, or who Unity Point is? All I know about it is that suddenly signs went up and Trinity got a lower billing and Unity Point got a bigger billing on the sign. I have no idea who Unity Point is or what their range is. Can you tell us a little bit about Unity Point?
it's Trinity. So everything that was Trinity is Unity Point now. So
They just changed their name.
it's just a name change.
Oh,
Yep.
I thought they were bought out by somebody.
No,
Well,
no,
that's
just
good
the
to know.
name change to kind of incorporate, since they have things outside of, it used to be Iowa Health System, but now they have things outside of Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Nebraska. So now it's just an all-encompassing name change.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the name is now at other Trinity facilities around.
Yeah, so like the hospital
Uh,
at West Campus in Rock Island is now Unity Point Trinity Campus. So,
I thought they got bought out by somebody even bigger yet than Iowa Health Services.
no, it's still the same.
That's nice to know.
Yep. Do you guys have any other questions, or? Yes.
With your experience, if you have your kidneys all shut down and you don't want to go in and have your what, dialysis, does that take very long until you're gone after the kidney shuts down?
Not typically. It depends on the progression of your disease, though, at that point. So, yep. And like I said before, everybody's disease progression is different. So two people can have the same exact diagnosis. They're not going to have the same symptoms. They're not going to have the same journey. I mean, one might have pain, one might not. Everybody's different.
Can you tell us stories, without names, of course, but that you found particularly, I don't know, illustrative of the value of hospice or poignant stories?
Wow. We've got 4 years worth of data to go through there. We've had patients whose family members thought that they could take care of them. They've been caregivers for years and years. They've taken care of mom for years. So what would be the difference in taking care of mom during her last days at home? And just can't. It's too much. It's very emotionally draining, not to mention physically. You don't realize how much you're up and down. You don't realize, the physical care that it requires to turn and bathe and help mom use the restroom and that kind of stuff. We've done amazing things getting people placed into nursing homes or transferring them to Genesis Hospice to go to Clarissa Cook. Very last minute, it just takes a couple of hours, whatever we can do. I've had patients who I have thought it would be less than 24 hours before they were gone, and I have graduated them off of hospice. Every day is a new experience. People talking and having conversations with loved ones that have passed for years. Seeing amazing things. I always tell people, if you're not a believer, follow me for a week. You will see some amazing things. Stories that people have come back and told me, I saw this person or I saw this, like it was completely real to them. I don't know, I have amazing stories about everything. I've gotten very close to family members. I've gotten that I still have lunch with on a monthly basis. Some patients you don't get to know as well, but they still leave a lasting impact on you. I can remember names. I remember names of people I took care of 4 years ago. It's the most rewarding job I have ever had in my entire nursing career. I actually left hospice. I had two very special patients pass away within 2 weeks of each other, and I emotionally could not handle it, so I left. I was gone for a year and I came back. When I left that last job, my husband said, go back. He said, take some time off. He said, there's no rush to get another job right now. He said, just think back to the last time you were truly happy. Here I am again. I love it. I wouldn't trade it for anything.
How large is our staff at Trinity, or does Unity Point hire?
We're actually one of the smaller staffed hospices in the Quad Cities, so we have 6 nurses.
Yeah, I mean,
6. 6 field nurses, and then there's 3 of us in the office supervising. I always say that's kind of nice because we have smaller caseloads, it's more intimate, and when you're calling on call, you're not constantly getting somebody new. So you do get to know the team a little bit. We also have 2 social workers, a chaplain, and a bereavement coordinator. So pretty small staff, which is nice.
For 2 summers when I was in college, I worked in the nursing home, or the nursing wing of a nursing home. And we had about 18 or 20 people up there who were all not really end stage, but there were really only 2 that were lucid. Most of them were well, there was one in particular that was a vegetable, and others that had strokes. You know, they were not, I don't think they would have qualified for hospice. I mean, I suppose our nursing homes are still full of people like that.
There are.
But I mean, those people hung on. I did it 2 summers in a row, and some of those people were there, you know, for years like that. But that's not hospice. And
No, but I always say it doesn't hurt for us to come do an evaluation. Even if your loved one doesn't qualify at that time, we can at least tell you the things to look for that in their disease progression that may qualify them in the future. You know, like I said, it's kind of a big picture, so just because you've had a stroke doesn't necessarily mean that you qualify for hospice. You know, we're looking at what kind of a decline have you had in the last few months or the last few weeks in some cases. You know, have you had a weight loss? Have you stopped eating? What kind of symptoms from your stroke are you having? You know, those kinds of things. So it's more of a big picture type of situation.
Yeah, I know, maybe you covered this, but you said your staff was a certain size. At this time, how many people are you covering, or how many are involved in as patients with hospice?
Each nurse carries a caseload of about 10 to 12, typically. And we do have a pretty big service area. So for people on the outlying portions of that service area, we do at least let them know that our response time may be a little bit longer, but we've gone all the way up to Clinton, we go all the way down to Muscatine, Columbus Junction, Henry County, Mercer County, Allen County, Scott County. So those are the big counties around here, but we do go a little bit further than that. So.
Do you find difficulty within families of people saying, no, Dad, don't go into hospice, don't give up? I was thinking when my dad made that decision, we talked about it, and okay, well, that's a decision that he's made, and we were together, but what's that like? When, you know, how do you work with a family that some say, yeah, that hospice would probably be a good thing, and others say, no, we're not going to give up?
I actually just had that situation. I had a patient who had a very poor prognosis. 3 sons, 2 of the sons agreed along with the patient to sign up for hospice. The other son was not on board, not even a little bit. He was not the power of attorney though, so his decision was taken into account, but ultimately they did sign with hospice. But it became very difficult because he was then pushing Dad to keep getting treatment. It's a lot of education, a lot of patience. And that's where the whole team comes into play. It's very nice to have your social worker then and your chaplain and your backup. So again, you know, just a lot of talking with that family member and trying to help them come to terms. You know, sometimes it's unresolved family issues that we can help them kind of mediate for them and kind of help them get those issues resolved. And, you know, we never know what's going on with families, but try to get to the root of it. Yes?
The hardest part of my son's work, he works in ICU, and it's the family that they have the most trouble with. And he says they want to pull the plug, and the other says no. And they just keep on going. And he says that's the hardest part of his job, is just waiting. So,
I would agree with that.
yeah.
Yep. Yes.
Tell us a little bit about the volunteers and what training do they get at, for hospice volunteering?
They have to have 20 hours, I believe, of training. Our volunteer coordinator facilitates that, so it's a lot. The nurses come in and do education with the volunteers as far as, you know, things that we would encounter as nurses, the social workers, chaplains. So they do get a lot of area-specific education. But again, they're not medical professionals. They're just people in the community that a lot of them have had previous experience or family members on service, and they feel they want to give back a little bit, so that's what they do, is they volunteer with us now. So, you know, just a lot of, you know, area-specific education that they go through the state.
Barb mentioned something about palliative care. Can you describe palliative care a little bit?
Sure. You have visiting nurses who typically you'll see like when you come out of the hospital and you have new things going on, so you'll have visiting nurses come in. And then you have hospice, when you're typically towards the end and you're done with all the treatments and things. Palliative care is kind of in the middle of that. It affords you the opportunity to still be able to go to the doctor, still get your treatments, and keep on that course of action, but it also gives you a nursing resource to help you with your symptom management at home, and to kind of help keep an eye on your medications. If you have a need in the middle of the night and you necessarily don't want to go to the emergency room, you have that resource in the middle of the night. But like I said, the hospice team does respond to those calls, can help you at home. You know, it's kind of that intermediate help. So again, with the symptom management, and so you kind of have the benefits of both worlds at that time. Still wanting to pursue treatment, but still need that extra resource at home as well.
Does it allow you to choose not to have certain treatment? Like say you have cancer or something like that, you don't want to go through chemo. Through palliative care, can you say, hey, I don't want that?
Yep.
You can always say that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can always say, I do not want to choose to treat that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. At any point, you can decline treatment or seek a second opinion, or
There are cases, however, where if you decline treatment or decline a procedure or a test, the insurance will not cover you from then on.
I've never run into that before.
They told me that at the University of Iowa when I was there in the hospital. I had declined a test that they wanted to do, and they said, well, you can decline it, but then the insurance will not cover your stay here.
Really? I've never ran across that before. I've run across cases before, like if you leave against medical advice, that insurance won't pay or Medicare may not pay, but I've never ran across that before. Not saying it doesn't exist, I've never ran across that before. I know there are certain tests and procedures that insurance and Medicare requires you to do in order to get certain equipment or to go on another course of treatment or something to kind of piece that together. But
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Good.
Are there any more
Thank you.
questions? Does anyone-
Yes.